You and I have been texting about hero destinations. I came up with three more that we haven't texted about. Do you want to dive into those right now or like go through some of the other stuff first?
No, I would just the only thing I'll say is I think the number one hero team to me, if we wanted to get like have it kind of make some sense, just in terms of they have a lot of picks and like hero would be a nice fit for them, would be New Orleans. That would be the one that I kind of jumps out to me. But like even finding a deal there is we like this is weird. Hero's like at a weird salary slot for what he is, and like what is the appropriate pick value for Tyler Herro? Like I could see negotiations between the front office in Miami and David Griffin falling apart just because it's hard for me to say this is what Tyler Herro is exactly worth. But give me your teams. Let's go through them.
Yeah, I like New Orleans. I think you and I were going back and forth with it, and it's like they don't have a lot of big salaries that aren't stars, number one. Number two, one of those salaries is Jonas Valanciunas, which is very similar to Yusuf Nurkic, who is kind of his own holdup in this whole thing, which we can get to. And, I'm not sure how many of their young guys they're going to want to part with. I'm not sure how realistic it is. Is trading C.J. McCollum for Tyler Herro really that much of an improvement? And I think the part of it, too, when you're thinking about Herro in general is how much better is he going to get? It's just there's not a track record of this type of guy improving dramatically. Like, it just doesn't happen very often that somebody who comes into the league with this type of profile where he's really a scoring guard. He's already won Sixth Man of the Year, and that kind of tells you all you need to know about him. Is that type of guy somebody who you can bank on getting better? Maybe as a passer, maybe, he rounds out his scoring game a little bit. He's already a pretty elite shooter, but that's just sort of what he is. I don't think he's going to get better defensively is really the biggest thing. He's small, right?
Can I play one devil's advocate thing here?
Sure.
I wonder if there is a part of this with Herro where we are maybe undervaluing him a little bit just because the Heat went on this run without him in the playoffs. I understand some of that, like simplified what they were doing, and like he is a defensive liability to some degree, right? Like I think that's like a real thing. I think maybe like we are undervaluing kind of what he is, considering he just was out for a while and the team he's on like went on a run. I think like sometimes like we can, broadly speaking, we can apply like causation to someone being out, and I don't always think that's fair to the player that's out, right? Like there's people that would argue like, oh, the Cavs in the LeBron era were better without Kevin Love. That was never really true, right? Like here that's a part of this that is stuck in my mind a little bit, is that are we maybe collectively undervaluing Herro a little bit because he was out for the certain time, and is someone out there going to look at him and say that's a guy I actually really like and I can do something with him?
Yeah, and I think that's valid. I mean, like, my test on defense especially is always, like, have you survived on good defensive teams? If you're out there and a coach that wants to put its best defensive lineup out there or its best overall lineup out there includes you in that, then, like, what am I going to say to honestly, one of those that ended up kind of playing out over time in the positive direction with Duncan Robinson, who's also on this Heat team, where it's like, we've seen it work. So I don't think Herro is some sort of lost cause. He's also not on a max contract. He's paid a little less than some of the worst contracts out there. So I don't think it's egregious. I really do just think this is somewhat of a Portland thing. So I have the Grizzlies for Brandon Clark and Luke Kennard. So he basically fills that slot of kind of what Kennard did for them after he came over at the deadline, and we saw him make a decent impact for them in the playoffs even. He's a even worse defender than Herro, in my opinion, so maybe that's actually an upgrade for them. Maybe they have to throw some other picks or something in there that would go to Portland too. The Magic, which I think I've heard other people say, that would be something like Jonathan Isaac, Cole Anthony, and Chumo Kiki, or whatever other young guy you want to put in there, and that's sort of like the thing that Anthony has kind of been doing for them as a bench scorer. You just get an upgrade on that, and you're not having to send out too much. And then the last one I had was the Celtics for Malcolm Brogdon and Peyton Pritchard, which is pretty straightforward. You're just consolidating some of those guards. We know they've been shopping Brogdon already. Boston probably has to include a pick in that. But, maybe Pritchard actually does make sense for Portland, or maybe Brogdon goes to Portland and he's an expiring contract anyway, and maybe he's a buyout guy or something like that. I think those make sense because all three of those trades are taking back shorter-term salary and less guard type of players who are expensive, and maybe that makes sense for the the Blazers to get some of that. Maybe even some of that goes to the Heat, and then Herro going to the team that's mentioned there. Do either of those three seem better, worse? What's the best one in your mind?
I like the Boston one, Brendon. The cost would be the concern there for me, right? Because Boston's payroll is already really high. They're gonna assumedly give Jaylen Brown this like crazy high extension. That hasn't happened yet, but like we kind of just have thought that's gonna happen, right? Look, I am really curious to see just what Boston's kind of plans are. But Herro, in terms of getting it, that would be a win for him because it's another good situation, and they would have the defensive infrastructure for him to really succeed. That part of it, I'm a really big fan of in that sense because I think it would give him the room to be himself while having it's lesser defensive guards now because you only have one of the three guys they had last year in this hypothetical, but you still have Tatum and Brown. True. And Derek White. And that's like a ton of defensive cover to put Herro on a stationary shooter or something like that. You could easily hide him pretty well. And they have, like Porzingis and Time Lord and Horford. Like they have a good defensive infrastructure there. And the scheme is we would think with Porzingis coming in and some of the guard changes, they might not switch as much next year, which I think is good for Herro. So like, I would love the Boston fit for him in terms of like what would emphasize him and what he's good at, helping him win basketball games and contribute to winning basketball games. I love that, and it would give just Boston one other person to maybe kind of help their offense get out of the mud sometimes. So that would be the one to me that I would really like if they wanted to go all in and take a page from the Suns and say what's an apron? Screw the aprons. Who needs an apron?
That is true. That is valid. I mean, in that context, they're basically sending out as much as they're taking in, but the difference is Herro's under contract long term, which I think is another complicating factor. But yeah, I like the Boston one too. I feel like all your points are well made. I feel they also, if they're sending out Pritchard, they got to get another white dude in there. That's just a Boston rule. I mean,
also,
they can't go too long without at least a few.
I like Pritchard. I think he's gonna like end up somewhere and be like a pretty decent like energy guard for some team who gets him. And Portland maybe isn't if it's Portland or Miami or whoever, I would be curious to just see like how that could kind of appeal to him. I guess my question with the Boston one is, do you think that gets Miami enough stuff to then reroute to Portland to get Dame?
Well, my thing with the Herro part of it is I think the fact that he doesn't fit there, and that's the reason I emphasize that it's partially a fit problem, is more of the issue than just like, is there enough stuff? I don't know what else another team is giving up that's going to blow the Heat offer out of the water so much that Portland is willing to take the PR hit of not sending Dame where he goes. Like, where he wants to go. So I don't know if it's so much a like Miami needs to make its offer better thing as it is a Miami needs to make an offer that makes more sense for the Trailblazers thing. That's kind of where I see it. So Boston, I guess then Pritchard goes there. He's also a guard. Maybe not. I think I mentioned I would imagine Boston has to send out a pick in that situation. That pick would probably go to the Blazers. Yeah, I agree. But I don't think any three of these are making the Heat's offer much better, to be honest with you. And that's part of the issue here, and I think that's why there's a little bit of a stalemate happening.
Yeah, and if I'm Portland, to bring it back, we're bringing this back to a place of Yusuf Nurkic, I guess, or at least I am. I kind of would want another they don't have like a center to like step in and really like be a center for them, but they could go get some veterans for minimums and fill out the roster and stuff if they need to. I would want Nurkic as like a tax for one of these other. Getting off his money to me would be worth something. I don't know if it's worth like a first, but it's worth like a second or two, right? And maybe that could help the price. Nurkic also just doesn't feel like someone that Miami really has a need for, is the thing. They signed Thomas Bryant. They have Bam. Like, do they
Kevin Love?
They have Kevin Love. Like, they don't need Nurkic. Like, where's the Nurkic? Is Nurkic even able to get rerouted somewhere? Like another team with cap space? Like, this gets really complicated very quickly.
The way that I had it with Nurkic is, if I'm Miami, the way I'm looking at this, because Caleb Martin has been the other kind of sticking point out there, right? Is Miami just doesn't want to include him, which I actually get, because if you look at their roster, like you just mentioned, they're heavy on bigs.
They need him.
They need wings.
They need him. Yeah.
They badly need wings and forwards. I mean, Josh Richardson might be starting for this team.
Well, and look, and let's think about this from like just a regular season management perspective. We know Jimmy is going to miss some time. We just know he is. That's going to happen.
Yeah.
Dame is 33. You probably don't need to put his foot on the gas for the whole regular season. They just like need competent bodies so they're not like accidentally like the 6th seed or something, right? Like yes, they just did make the play-in and make the finals. I get that. But replicating that over and over again, even if you add someone of Dame's caliber, it's just not like an optimal way to do it. It's just really, it makes it much, much harder on yourself if you go that way.
I have one Miami question on that note to close us out on this segment, but where I was going with the Nurkic thing is I would be looking at it if I'm the Heat as either I'm taking back Nurkic or I'm including Caleb Martin. That would be kind of like my negotiating stance if I'm Pat Riley and Andy Ellisberg and those guys is like, we're fine to take back Nurkic if it means we get Lillard, but you're not also getting Caleb Martin. And look, I know I sound ridiculous. Like if there are any Portland fans listening, I already know they're angry. There's a TikTok going around of a drive-through coffee shop where the guy is just like openly commit. Have you seen this, Chris? The barista is like wallowing in his misery and has to remember that there's like a line of cars because he's asking like, is there any way Lillard comes back? Just like some random coffee shop. So like, I know this sounds.
All my TikToks, Brendon, are Grimace Shake TikToks right now. It's all of them, and
it's dominating the FYP.
And there is probably a Dame Portland fan Grimace Shake crossover TikTok to be made.
If there's not, it's about to be. So I get that sounds ridiculous. Like, but this is a different day and age, and when these guys are expensive, it isn't we get everything. And I guess there's obviously the part of this where do Joe Cronin and co. Are they willing to roll the dice and wait long enough for, what happened with the Nets and Suns to happen? Like, is this something that they're going to roll into the trade deadline with and say, okay, you really need this now, Miami? Like, you're going to give us Caleb Martin and you're going to take Nurkic and we're not taking Herro and you need to find it. Like, maybe, but that takes a lot of balls, honestly. Like, that takes a lot of confidence to just say, we're going to have our season potentially be wrecked by this just to get what we want, especially with the Blazers want to be looked at as good guys. So I don't know if you have more thoughts, but I have one last Miami question.
Yeah, hit me with the last Miami question. I think
is Miami the yeah.
No, it's just unless if Portland wants to be a villain, and I don't think they do, and I don't think they should. This would be a much more interesting thing if they want to just say like bidding wars open, whomever can give us the best thing possible. Dame, you're now a member of the Utah Jets. Dame, you're now playing with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in Oklahoma City. Dame, you're now a San Antonio. Like whatever it is, like that's where this ends up. If they get one group, but we're not gonna go there. He's gonna end up in Miami. I just kind of think that's where this is gonna end up, and it's just gonna be like 85 cents on the dollar.